Hello, my name is Kelsey, and today you're watching a YouTube video.
Dun dun dun!
I don't understand why in the world you guys show up here. Okay. Hey y'all, what's up? My name is Kelsey K, otherwise known as KelseyKMUA, and I wanted to thank you so much for being here today. Wow, my glasses are dirty and I literally just cleaned them. So you know what? I'm just gonna do today's tutorial absolutely blind, but that's okay. So I went on Facebook today and I was just kind of like, dude, what is it that I want to actually post? Like, what type of videos do I want to do? So you know what? I just did an ask the audience. And so today we are going to be talking about blending. So we're going to be talking about different techniques that you can use to blend out your foundation, different techniques that you can kind of use in your complexion. So if you have not already seen my beginner series, I will link that up here. The beginner series is a collection of videos that I have here on my YouTube channel that kind of breaks down each individual process of when it comes to your makeup. So, but today we're gonna kind of do more of an in-depth blending of the face and of the eyes. So let's go ahead and get started. So to prime my face, I'm going to go ahead and use the Arbonne makeup primer. Okay, so making sure that when you are putting on your primer, make sure that you are kind of like patting it here again into the skin. If you're doing like little circles like this, the only thing that's gonna do is gonna create texture here on the skin, because as the primer is drying down onto your skin, you don't want to be like resurfacing any of that texture to create any like small like little beads on the skin. You want everything to be very flat and pressed in, and to avoid creating any new texture on the face. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that kind of sink in, sing a song, phone a friend. Just kidding, I'm gonna get straight into the foundation. Okay, so guys, first off, I am actually going to start with using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Cream Contour Kit. I'm actually going to use this to kind of brighten up the under eye area here, do a little bit of cream contouring in the hollows of my cheeks, as well as just a little bit here along the hairline. So the type of brush that I'm going to use for the deeper shade, so more of like my contour, is going to be a brush that is a little bit more fluffy in texture. It's got a little bit, it's dirty, okay, don't mind me. So it's not going to be as dense. It's got a little bit more give to it here in the bristles. This brush allows me to precisely lay down the product in the places where I want to contour, but because the bristles are a little bit more fluffy, it also allows me to blend it out at the same time, so I don't have to use multiple tools to get the effect that I want. Okay, so just taking a little bit of these two shades over here, we're going to do the deepest shade as well as this middle shade right here, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this here along the hollows of my cheeks. For most people, including myself, this is right about here. Imagine like if you were to take it from right where the top of your ear meets your face, kind of going in there, stamping, and stopping right about here where your brow would meet your cheek area. So that's where I'm gonna stop. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and go through and blend out this contour right here. I'm gonna do that first by kind of just like stamping over again, and then taking tiny circles and blending. This is going to make it so then the area is not nearly as harsh. I'm gonna add just a little bit more product because we are going to be putting on foundation over this. And stamp, stamp, stamp. And blend, blend, blend. I'm also going to go ahead and take the lightest shade in the palette down here, and I am going to go ahead and carve out my jawline by doing tiny circular motions. So it's great at being precise when it comes to placing the product, but it's also really great at blending out the product as well. Why in the world could I not say that earlier? When I was trying to describe why I like this brush, I swear to God, I said like 10 different things. And I was just like, but none of this sounds right, why? Okay, so next for doing the lighter shades of the cream product, I'm going to use this brush right here. It's a very, very densely packed dome-shaped brush. This is a Real Techniques Expert face brush, and I'm going to go ahead and take the yellow shade right here to kind of help correct any darkness that I have here under the eyes. And I'm just gonna go ahead and stamp that on. So stamping to place down the product, and then using small sweeping motions to blend. I'm kind of using almost like a very, very light buffing motion. So not necessarily swirling and not necessarily dragging either. It's kind of like a hybrid between the two. Kind of like a hybrid between swirling and dragging. I can tell that it has been a while since I've just drank any amount of water. I am so bad. I'm so bad. I preach all of this about like staying hydrated and drink your water. Your skin won't thrive without water. And of course I'm sitting here just like,
I guess I'll just drink iced coffee forever.
bad Kelsey, bad. I suck. And I'm just placing a little bit of that yellow in here as well, just to kind of help give me extra coverage. Now this is a step that you do not have to do. You do not have to do any type of cream contouring underneath your foundation if you don't want to. I just wanted to kind of put this here in the video just for anybody who is interested in this step. Okay, so next moving on to foundation, I'm going to go ahead and be using the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation in the shade 415. This is just one of my go-to foundations. It looks great on a variety of different skin types, and I'm going to be using my little like velvet sponge here that I got from Marshall's. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go ahead and place this here around my face to kind of get the product down, and then starting here at the forehead, I'm going to start bouncing. So again, bouncing is going to reduce the amount of texture that you're going to create on the skin because you are not rubbing around. I had a friend ask me why she ended up having all kinds of texture on her skin when she was applying her makeup with her brush, and I told her that it's purely just comes down to technique. I need to like squirt down this sponge because it is dry, and it is, these types of sponges are not supposed to absorb product because they're supposed to be like the velvet ones that are supposed to have all the product kind of just like sit on top, but this bad boy is absorbing everything.
Because, of course, as soon as I go to sit down and try to do like a how-to video, none of my stuff works.
Seriously, it's irritating. So I sprayed down my sponge with some of the Mario Badescu's spray in the, I used the lavender and aloe spray, the purple one, and I think that it's working out much, much better. It is blending the product much better. Just for kicks and giggles, I am gonna show you how to blend things out using a brush if you are the type of person who does like to apply your foundation with a brush. I'm just gonna go ahead and use it's not necessarily a flat top, but it's also not necessarily a dome topped brush either. It's kind of like a squoval. And so what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go ahead and place the product here, again in stamping motions like how I would with a beauty blender, and stamping here all over the face. So now you can blend by using smaller strokes. I just prefer to use more of like a stamping motion and then kind of going through and buffing, but you just have to be very, very careful and watch very closely to see where the foundation might be lifting, because if you are creating too much texture, the only thing that's going to do is going to pull up the foundation off of the skin, and then you're going to get all kinds of crazy texture, and we don't want that. We want smooth, beautiful, flawless skin. So if you are not going to be stamping, I recommend using like small buffing motions, kind of like how we did with like the hybrid motion where we were placing our cream highlight.
Hey guys, this is Kelsey here from the future. I am editing this video and realizing that I didn't blend my foundation down my neck. Please ignore that for the rest of the video. Please and thank you. I love you. Bye.
I'm gonna apply a little bit more here on the nose, the nosy posy. Okay, so next for concealer, I'm gonna be using two different types of concealer just because I know that there are people out here that do use both. So I have here a concealer in a stick form. This here is the Kick-Ass Concealer by Soap & Glory in the shade Light. And then here I have the e.l.f. 16-Hour Camo Concealer. This is the OG concealer. I personally prefer a liquid concealer over a stick concealer, but that's just my personal preference. So I'm gonna be using the stick concealer in the places where I normally show redness on my jawline, and then just like a little bit here on the forehead to help conceal any extra like texture that I have from just random pimples that just refuse to go away. And then I'm going to be using my e.l.f. concealer under the eyes, so 2 dots under the eye here, and then like one right here where I feel like I might need a little bit of extra coverage. So I'm going to start first by blending out the concealer down here along my jawline. Now you do not have to put concealer down here if you do not want. This is just where personally I feel like I need extra coverage. However, I do find that putting extra concealer down here along your jawline, just underneath where we placed our contour shade, really does kind of help emphasize any contouring that you put on the hollows of your cheeks, and just helps kind of give you that extra natural look. I'm gonna go ahead and blend that out up here. So again, when I'm using my sponge, I am just tapping over the areas where the concealer is, But say you're the person that's like, you know what, Kelsey, what if I don't like blending sponges? What if I don't use blending sponges? I prefer to use a brush to blend out my concealer. Hey, you know what? That's cool too. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna go ahead and take your brush and go pat, 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 pat here under the eye and just tapping out that product into almost like a Nike swoop type of look to it. So you're gonna have kind of this like almost larger triangular shape without using a ton of product, because using a ton of concealer, the only thing that's going to do is just make the face look really like cakey and gross. So the less product that you use, the better. And plus this camo concealer gives ridiculous coverage too, so you do not need a whole lot. And so again, as I'm blending out this concealer, again, using those nice tapping motions, I'm gonna also work that concealer kind of here up almost to the brow area, just on the inside of the nose, kind of like where the bridge of the nose meets the eye socket, just to kind of brighten up this area right in here, because I do tend to get kind of dark in there. And then I am gonna add a little bit of concealer to the top of the nose, so just right there. And then I will tap this out with my brush, kind of bringing a little bit there, a little bit here, and then a little bit to highlight the center of the face. And then I'm just gonna go through and blend things out with my sponge, just because I feel like that with a sponge, you just are able to cover a larger amount of surface area more quickly. Okay, so next moving on to powder, I'm going to go ahead and powder down my face with the Marc Jacobs. This is the Invisible Finish Line Perfecting Coconut Setting Powder. You do not have to use a powder like this. To be honest, I'm not even gonna lie, this is really not even my favorite face powder. If I were to say what my favorite face powder is, it's probably the Coty Airspun, and that's only $5. But what I'm doing is I am just taking my brush, dipping into the powder, tapping off that excess, and then again, stamping onto the face. As you can see here, there's lots of stamping that goes on when you're applying your makeup, because this is going to allow you to get more coverage, and it's also, again, like I said, is going to reduce the amount of texture that you might normally be creating on the skin if you were to do like circular buffing motions into the skin. Okay, so next for bronzing, I'm going to be going ahead and using the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil bronzer. I really love this. So what I am doing is I'm going to be taking my angled brush and I'm going to go ahead and stamp here again along the hollows of my cheeks. Starting again from where the top of my ear meets my face. And then in one direction, I am going to use the brush to kind of blend out the product. It's always easier to go through and you can build up product and blend it out, build up product and blend it out, than it is to go in with like a ton of product and trying to just get it all on your face and then blending it out. It's a lot easier to build it up than it is for you to take it away. So again, stamping, and so then again just doing those small like hybrid buffing motions and then taking one direction to kind of blend it up here towards the hairline. Now, do not get discouraged if you find that the very first time that you try this technique that it doesn't work out. Maybe might be the product that you're using. Maybe, you know, whatever foundation you're using isn't right for your skin. Maybe it's your primer. It could be, you know, a number of things. It could be your skincare. There's some skincare out there that isn't great to use underneath makeup. It could be a variety of different things. But what I want to remind you is to not get discouraged when you try something out for the first time and it doesn't work out. Like I've said like many, many times before, that I didn't just wake up one day and know how to do my makeup. You know, there were many, many years where my makeup looked like absolute garbage. I look back at some photos, even from 3 years ago when I really first started pursuing makeup as a regular hobby, and then even as a side business. I think to myself like, oh my goodness, like did I really think I was good at makeup back then? Because this looks terrible. And I'm sure that in another 3 years from now, I'm gonna look back at this video and go like,
Kelsey, what were you doing? Oh my gosh.
So every single day is a growth and learning process. You're not going to get something right the very first time you ever do it. And then if you do,
good for you.
And then just taking, again, this contour powder down here along my jawline to contour the pumpkin pie away. And then just gonna go ahead and go down the side of my nosy posy with my bronzer. just very lightly, nothing too extreme, just to kind of give the nose a little dimension, you know? Now you can use even like an eyeshadow brush for this. So this brush here is almost like an eyeshadow blending brush. So you can use an eyeshadow blending brush if you would like. This is just what's on the other end of this blender here. I really like using a blending eyeshadow brush for doing my nose contour, even just like a slanted, something that is slanted like this, because this makes it really easy to kind of get in this area right here. But this brush is also good at getting in here as well. So kind of just taking this up to the head of the brow, just very lightly. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and here go under the lip, kind of make my lips look a little bit more full and pouty. Maybe then Lucas will want to kiss me. Just kidding, he always wants to kiss me, and sometimes I'm just like,
No, don't, you're gonna ruin my lipstick. Ah!
I suck. I'm such a terrible wifey, oh my gosh. Okay, so for blush, I think I'm actually going to be using this one by KVD Vegan Beauty. This one here is called the Shade and Light Blush. This is the shade Hansel and Gretel. I'm assuming that this one is Hansel and this one's Gretel. Yeah, Shade and Light. Ah, okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a larger brush, very similar in shape to our cream highlighting brush, but a little bit more fluffy and dome shaped. So I like something that's a little bit more densely packed when it comes to blush, just because I fell in love with blush this year, and I think a lot of people did as well, but I really fell in love with how blush can also help accentuate your bronzer or your contour and really just help brings a little bit of extra color and life to the skin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kind of use almost like small like patting motions going from the apples of the cheeks up to the hairline, going just above where our contour is. So our contour is right about here. I'm placing the blush about 1/2 inch to 1 inch above that, and just going pat, 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 but also kind of like patting and stroking at the same time. I really like this blush. I think this is a very flattering tone. It's not too pink, but it's also not too mauve either. And this is also going to help shape the face as well and kind of help lift everything. That was easy. This was me hitting the Staples That Was Easy button. I don't have one. A-okay. So let's go ahead and move on to eyeshadow blending. I feel like I should have asked what type of eyeshadow look that you guys wanted to see when it came to blending. What is it that you really find that you need help with it when it comes to blending out eyeshadow? Hold please. Okay, so I asked Facebook what kind of video that you guys wanted to see on eyeshadow blending, and I've been waiting for like 20, 25, 30 minutes, and nobody's responded. So guess what? You get what I give you. If you guys want something a little bit more specific after this, I'll be willing to do it, okay? Okay. But so today for today's eyeshadow blending tutorial, I'm going to be using the BH Cosmetics Desert Oasis palette. Now the reason why I really like this palette here is because your 2 shades that you would use right here for your transition shades are a lot bigger than the rest of the shades that you would use for your eyeshadows over here. And then there's also 5 really beautiful shades that you can use over here for highlight as well. So I'm going to be using this. And the type of eyeshadow look that I'm going to be doing today is pretty what I would call basic. I would think that it's something that's a little bit more advanced than just doing like 2 different eyeshadow shades, maybe just like a highlighting shade or like a shimmer shade all over the lid and then something through the crease. That's something that's really simple that you can kind of just like slap on, you know, if you've got only 10 minutes to, you know, leave the house, but you want to look kind of put together. This is something that is going to be for like those more like special occasions. But so let's go ahead and prime the eyes. Now for an eyeshadow primer, you can use concealer or foundation if you want, if that's what works for you. If you feel like you don't really want to invest in an eyeshadow primer quite yet. Personally, I really enjoy using eyeshadow primers just because I feel like that it helps the longevity of my eyeshadow. My eyeshadows don't crease nearly as quickly. And I do find that whenever I do use a concealer or just my foundation through my eyelids, it just tends to just break down the eyeshadow a little bit too quickly. So if I'm looking for my eyeshadow to last a really long time, so say if I am going to some sort of special event, or if I am going to be working 8+ hours, whatever the case may be, then I want to make sure that I'm definitely using an eye primer as opposed to just going over my eyelid with concealer. There are lots of really great eyeshadow primers out there. Urban Decay, the Primer Potion is like a cult favorite. My personal favorite is the Anastasia Beverly Hills eye primer. Okay, so I am going to be using the hairy brush. Ugh. that I had used to apply my concealer from earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put literally just like a teardrop sized amount of that primer on the back of my hand. And I'm going to use this amount for both of my eyes. So I'm gonna go ahead and dip into it and then just go ahead and apply this here all over the lid. Sometimes I flip-flop back and forth between whether I use my finger or a brush. Just kind of depends on whatever I'm feeling like that day. Depends on my mood. Sometimes I don't want to get my fingers dirty. Sometimes I'm wearing fake nails, like right now. And no, I did not go get my nails done. Girl, I've had these for like 2 years. I bought these actually for Luke's company Christmas party from like 2 years ago. And then I found them in the back of the bathroom cabinet. And I was like, hell yeah. Let me go ahead and do my nails. Okay, and then so I have worked this eyeshadow all the way from the lash line to the brow bone. And as you can see, I have used all of the primer and it's not like sticky and gloopy. If your eyeshadow primer is like really, really sticky and gloopy and it feels like you can almost like just wipe it off of your eye, it's probably because you use too much. You don't want to do that. I am going to go ahead and take my powder brush with no additional powder on it and just kind of just like pat over the eyes to kind of help set down that eye primer. So for my transition shade, I'm gonna go ahead and take the shade Canyon up here. This is more like light caramel-y color. And I'm going to tap off the excess off my brush so I don't end up with just a glob of color. And I'm gonna start over here at the outer portion of the eye and very, very lightly go back and forth across the lid. And I am lifting my eyebrow so that there are no skips in the color. I do sometimes end up still with skips over here in the center portion of my eye, but then I just either go through and blend them out later, or I just suck it up and deal with it. Because sometimes they just don't come out. So now your blending is going to be the make it or break it portion of your eye look. I could probably sit here and blend out my transition shade for literally 2 minutes. I'm talking a straight 120 seconds. I can sit here and blend this out and just watch it diffuse and get more and more artistic. But we don't have time for that, okay?
We're normal, everyday women here, Kelsey. Not everybody wears as much makeup as you do.
And sometimes it's just an addiction, okay?
And I'm just really dramatic. Okay, so once I am happy with the color payoff in my transition, I'm gonna go ahead and start deepening up the outer portion of the eye to give a little bit more depth and dimension. So for that, I'm gonna use this shade right here called Nightscape. It's like a matte deep brown shade, and I am going to be using a slanted brush to do this, dipping that into the product, tapping off your excess. And then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna start here kind of like at the outer corner with the smaller side of my brush on the outside of my eye. So this way I'm gonna kind of get a little bit more precision, and I'm holding my brush at the back of the handle, and I'm starting kind of here towards the outer corner of the eye and slowly dragging up towards the tail of the brow on the outer portion of the eye and lifting this eye. And then I am slowly dragging that here along the lash line, create a little bit more depth over here. And then I'm gonna switch my brush the other way to a point where the taller portion of the bristles are towards the outside of the eye. And then I'm gonna start bringing this shade in with no additional product on the brush. I might add a little bit more later. Actually, yeah, let's add a little bit more shadow. Let's go ahead and just tap it into the shadow, starting at that outermost corner. And I'm just gonna go ahead and sweep inward, kind of like wiggling back and forth, moving inward towards the center of the eye. And then turning my brush back again around to a point where the longer portion of the bristles are going to be facing the inside portion of my eye. I'm going to go ahead and sweep outward like this to extend again that darker portion of the shadow to lift the eye even further, and just kind of flicking outward. Then I'm going to go back to my blending brush and blend the outer edges of this shadow in small circular motions towards the top of the eye, close to that brow bone. And then once I get over here to the outer portion of the eye, I'm just gonna kind of wiggle back and forth to diffuse those edges so there are no harsh lines. Okay, and then lastly for the lid, I'm going to go ahead and just pop on a shimmer shade all over the lid. I'm gonna be starting here at the inner corner and then going right about here to where that dark shade starts. I don't know what color I wanna use. Normally I would spring for one of these like highlighty type shades over here, these like light shimmery and champagne shades, but I think I'm gonna do something a little bit daring today. I think I actually might do blue. I kind of wanna use this really light blue shade right here. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Oh my gosh. So I'm dipping into that shade turquoise and packing that here on my brush. Ooh, tip, handy tip, if you want your shadows to stick a little bit better to your eye and show a little bit more pigmentation and get a little bit more of like that foiled shimmer effect, spray it down just once and then sweep it right there. I usually kind of do a combination of sweeping and just like patting, packing motions. Kind of depends. This is really pretty. It's not too blue, which is what I was kind of worried about. It's almost just like that nice like silvery blue. This was a good decision. This was a really good decision. Okay, I am happy with this decision. And so what I'm doing with the shadow is that I'm trying to keep this right into where the socket of my eye is. And so above where my natural crease is and where my eyeball meets my orbital bone. So kind of packing, so I can kind of feel it right in here. So I can kind of press my brush right in there. And then that is where my eyeball meets the socket. So that is where I am going to place this blue shadow. You will always get more pigmentation and you'll always get more out of your eyeshadows if you pack them on first and then go through and blend them out. But at the same time, if you're still kind of like learning and trying to figure things out, and also keep in mind that not all eyeshadows are created equal. Okay, so I am really, really happy with the way that this eyeshadow look is going so far. I'm gonna go ahead and do the lower lash line, but to do that, I am going to use a slightly smaller, like flat, domey top blender. So that's gonna look like this. It's a little bit flat, but at the same time, it's still kind of fluffy. And I'm gonna go ahead and take that shade Canyon and then just kind of work that here through the lower lash line, going all the way from inner to outer corner. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch back to that slanted brush. I'm gonna again take up that dark brown shade called Nightscape. And since this is a slanted brush, I kind of have to be pretty careful. You can use another type of brush for this, something that is a little bit more along the lines of a flat top brush. But since I already have this one and I don't feel like dirtying up another brush, I'm just gonna use this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and place the shadow kind of like on the side of the brush. So I'm kind of like, I'm dipping into the pan with the brush like this. So kind of getting the side of that brush and then going through and kind of placing that on there first. There's a lot of shadow on this brush, so I'm gonna use this for both eyes. And now I can go through and blend. But first, to get rid of any excess product that might be on the brush and I don't want to deposit any more color, I'm just gonna go ahead and take my little handy dandy paper towel, wipe that off, and then go through and blend. Kind of like wiggling back and forth. Okay, and now to highlight the inner corner of the eye. I think I'm gonna go ahead and take this shade right up here called Quartz. It's almost like more of like a champagne color. And I'm going to place that here on the inner corner of the eye and bring that through the inner crease. So your inner crease is this inner portion of your eye right in here. So it's kind of that spot where, just kind of like along the outside curvature of your eyeball on your lid. And I'm gonna kind of drag this inward just a little bit to meet up with that blue shade. So it's almost like an ombre of colors. I like it! Okay, well, this look definitely needs some liner, some mascara, and lashes. Okay, so hopping back into complexion now that the eyes are done, I'm gonna go ahead and highlight. So I think I am going to go ahead and use this shade right here, Serenity, on a fan brush. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight the high points of the face. So I'm gonna try to keep that right in here in this blank space between my blush and my eyeshadow. So I don't want necessarily like my highlight to touch my blush, because otherwise it's just gonna get muddy, and we don't want that. So just like that. So you've got like that nice beaming glow. And you can kind of just like wiggle your brush back and forth like this. You don't have to use a fan brush. You can use a highlighting brush like this. It kind of just looks like a giant eyeshadow blending brush, but let me show you the difference in size between a normal blending brush and this highlighting brush. Like the difference, like this is already a really, really big blending brush. So like the difference between this one and this one is pretty crazy. So but you can use this one as well. This will give you a more intense highlight. So if you really just want that bam, pow, like blend, like bold highlighted look, then go right on ahead. It's right in here, loving it. I'm just gonna go ahead and put my light bulb on my nose. I'm just gonna go ahead and place a little bit of that highlighter right here in the center of the face, top of the lip, and then here on the chin. If you have problem areas in your skin where you find that you have a little bit more texture or maybe even a breakout, try to avoid highlighting in those areas, because all that's going to do is going to emphasize any of that texture or bumps on your skin. I recommend you maybe using more along the lines of a stick highlighter. So something like this, something like from Laura Geller New York. I really like this. And the way that I can apply this is by using this and applying it to your sponge and then applying your sponge to your face. It's a lot easier. Don't ever try to apply a stick highlighter directly to your face. It's just going to take all of your makeup off from underneath. It's not a pleasant experience. Okay, lining my lips with Jordana Easy Liner for Lips in Rock and Rose. Okay, and then for lipstick, this is the Smashbox Liquid Lipstick. There's no shade name. Kind of like a muted brick red. And then just going to lightly set my face. This one is the Mario Badescu facial spray with the oh my gosh, I can't do anything today. With aloe, chamomile, and lavender. Whew. Okay guys, well that is it for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed today's blending video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it and that you learned something new. If you liked it, don't forget to give me a big ol' thumbs up. It helps other people find the video. And if you want to help other people find this video even faster, then you can share this video. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the little notification bell so you can see more videos of me doing stuff like this. Thank you guys so much. I love you so much, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye y'all.